When people think about shooters from the mid to late 2000s, there's one game that almost unanimously comes to mind. Call of Duty 4: Modern Warfare. And it's easy to see why this is the case. Without a doubt, the game revolutionized the first-person shooter as we know it, and its effects are still felt to this day. But there's another shooter from this era that's highly underrated, and while it and its predecessor may not have been quite as revolutionary to the world of gaming at the time, it was still an absolute blast to play, even if it was a little difficult at times. Oh my god! Oh, there he is. He's on the roof.
Hello there.
Oh, Jesus fucking Christ. Oh, on the roof. Shit. Oh, shit. 4, 3, 2, 1. No! We were so close. This is Rainbow Six Vegas 2. Released in early 2008 for the PS3, Xbox 360, and PC, the game was heavily overshadowed by the aforementioned COD 4, which had released just 4 months prior and quickly became an absolute juggernaut. I actually didn't pick this one up until a few years later, sometime around 2012 or 2013, and it was only because a friend of mine, who you'll see in this video, was looking for a co-op shooter to play. And man, am I ever so glad we picked this one up, because this is easily one of the funnest co-op shooting experiences ever. But what exactly is Vegas 2, and what makes it so special? Well, at its core, it's a tactical shooter, specifically a cover-based tactical shooter. While the game is technically an FPS, it also implements a cover system that adds a third-person element to gameplay, and it does so surprisingly well, since at any time you can smoothly transition from first person to taking cover by simply holding down a corresponding input. I remember at the time that this gave me immediate win-back vibes, which I'd played years before, because the cover system here was absolutely crucial to gameplay. But before we dive too deep into gameplay elements, let's briefly touch on the game's story mode. You take on the role of Bishop, an ex-Army Ranger turned Rainbow operator, who, at the command of a unit known as Bravo Team, is working to stop a group of terrorists in Las Vegas. You aren't really clued into what the motives behind these attacks are, but the NSA suspects that chemical weapons are involved. In a rather dark moment, your team actually fails to stop these chemical weapons from being used in time, and you watch, or really more so listen, as hundreds of civilians die as a result.
Get us out of here! Help us! Is anyone out there?
Darren, where is Hazmat? How much time do we have, Mike? Jesus.
The D-contents outside, they'll be expecting you.
From here, you pursue the perpetrator of this horrendous attack, which you do eventually catch, but we learn that this is far from over since there's also a conventional bomb located somewhere in the city. The rest of the story involves stopping this bomb and working to discover the true motivations for these attacks and who's really the mastermind behind them. It's not a particularly long story, at least not on paper, but depending on what difficulty you're playing on, you may find that it takes a bit longer than you might expect to complete. I'd say around 10 hours or so. For what it's worth, I was playing on realism difficulty, which, yeah, was definitely a bit of a challenge. Playing co-op does make a playthrough easier though, since if you die, your friend can get you up instead of having to be forced back to your last checkpoint. But at least when you're playing solo, you still do get your AI squad to command, which can actually be really helpful sometimes. The game has a pretty easy and intuitive to use command system, where with an input, you can order your squad to certain locations, be it a corner that you want them to take cover by, or a door that you want them to breach. The breaching in particular I found to be super satisfying, since prior to sending your squad mates in, you can look under the door with a snake cam and tag enemies in order of priority. Once you're all set, you can give them the command to enter and clear a room, or depending on the situation, you can also have them breach with a grenade or an actual breach charge. they're really effective at this too, making entry into rooms that would probably be certain death by myself if I was solo, a breeze. Commanding these guys was definitely the highlight of the story for me, since I sort of found most of it to be kinda redundant, and honestly, not all that impressive. It seemed like up until the end, most of the events didn't really matter too much, and dear God, don't get me started on the final boss fight. Alright, let's move on from story and just talk general gameplay. We've mentioned the fact that this is a cover-based shooter, and let me tell you, you're going to be sticking to cover a lot. That's not to say there won't be many instances where you'll find yourself taking out enemies in first person, it's just that first person gunplay, at least from my experience, requires you to be essentially stationary to be effective. Otherwise, accuracy seems to suffer pretty severely. If you're taking the slow and methodical approach to clearing an area or moving into a room, it can work, especially if you haven't been detected by enemies yet, so you aren't taking fire. But the AI almost always eventually detects you, and before you know it, things devolve into a guns loud type situation. When this happens, you'll find that trying to run and gun just doesn't work, and if you're not utilizing the cover mechanic, you're going to have a bad time. But even in cover, things are still not easy, partly because you aren't immune to damage when taking cover. If an enemy has enough of an angle on you to hit a bit of an arm or leg that's sticking out, they will shoot you and you will die if you don't adjust your position. This is something that you just sort of get a feel for over time, and the more and more you play the game, the more you'll begin to learn when you're safe and when you aren't. Also, there's bullet penetration in the game as well, so depending on what you're taking cover behind, it's just something else that you have to consider. When you combine all this with the AI that at sometimes has insane accuracy and response time, sometimes making it feel like they're targeting you within mere milliseconds of inching out of cover, it makes for a really great experience that's both challenging and satisfying all at the same time. Alright, so we made it this far into the video without mentioning it, but it's time to talk about the true highlight of Vegas 2, Terrorist Hunt, the source of the endless replayability and fun that this game offers, particularly in co-op. This mode lets you choose any available map in the game to fill up with enemies, and then you're challenged to clear it. Sounds simple, right? Well, that couldn't be further from the truth. If you're playing solo, even if you do choose to bring some allies with you, you still only get one life, so if you go down, it's game over. Bringing a buddy into co-op is 1000% the way to go here. Unfortunately, the PC servers are no longer available. However, the game does support LAN play, so it is still possible to hop into a game by using a virtual LAN tool like Radman, which, yeah, it sucks having to do this, but it's well worth it. This is how we played recently, and it works great. Well, besides the ever-present audio loop bug, where whoever isn't the host might experience the sound of constant machine gun fire, but that can be fixed by having the host lower their monitor's refresh rate to 60 Hz. Yeah, don't ask me why this works, but it does. Or at least it did for us. I do believe that the Xbox servers are still live for the game though, so backwards compatibility via a Series console may be the way to go if you're looking for the easiest way to get in on some of this action. It's really hard to put into words the appeal of this mode, because on the surface, just sitting behind cover waiting for enemies to stupidly run towards you for you to then pick them off could seem pretty unappealing. But it's the other moments, those times when you're pushing forward to try to trigger the next wave of enemies, only to walk into a shotgun-wielding NPC that one-taps you, then panicking as they rush your friend while you frantically wait for the respawn timer to hit 0. Stuff like this keeps you coming back for more, and the more and more you play, the more and more you unlock. Vegas 2 has an extensive unlock and equipment customization system, so not only do you get to customize your character's physical appearance when you start the game, but you get to outfit them with a huge variety of weapons, body armor, clothing, and camouflages. These are unlocked with a combination of increasing your overall character level and by progressing your ACES level, which these are broken down into Assault, CQB, and Marksman. Leveling up these allows you to unlock the various equipment that's available, since leveling up just your overall character level doesn't unlock everything the game offers. You gain assault points by doing things like killing enemies through cover or by using explosives. CQB points can be earned by killing enemies up close or by killing ones that are visually impaired, by flashbangs for example. And finally, marksman points can be earned by kinda just playing the game. Basic stuff like long-range kills, headshots, and killing enemies when they're repelling earns these. There's a surprising amount of weapons, with various assault rifles, LMGs, SMGs, sniper rifles, shotguns, sidearms, and even a shield to choose from. The armor options were always the most impressive to me though. As you sort through the ones available, you'll see that some are heavier and provide more protection, while others are lighter and offer higher mobility. For the shoulders, arms, and legs, you even have the choice to equip to just the left or right side, so you can really nail down the look you're going for. Throw in the ability to customize all the other cosmetic options, like helmets, hats, glasses, face masks, and camos. It's all incredibly impressive. Honestly, the only area that's lacking a bit is weapon customization. You won't find different barrels, muzzle brakes, or grips here. Just more basic attachments like different sights, such as a red dot or ACOG, extended mags, etc. Despite this though, the entire package of customization the game offers is really quite impressive. There really is a ton of stuff to unlock. And you can tell this came out before the era of microtransactions, because man, when you scroll through the camo list, you just know that some companies nowadays, perhaps even the publisher of this very game, would be trying to charge you for these, or let you pay to skip the grind to unlock them. Before we move on, I just want to quickly mention multiplayer versus as well. Sadly, I never played it back in the game's heyday since me and my friend group were more focused on the co-op experience and completely addicted to Terrorist Hunt, but from what I've read and the footage I've seen, it looks like it was honestly pretty solid and even had a competitive scene. Alright, before we conclude, let's briefly touch on presentation. I'm not gonna lie, this game didn't look that great in 2008, and yeah, it doesn't look that good now. Don't get me wrong, it's still very playable, but this isn't one of those games that are going to blow you away with how good the graphics still hold up. It does deliver a smooth experience on a modern system without much tweaking, although your mileage might vary on this, but I will say the game definitely would have benefited from having a few more options in its graphics settings menu. Yeah, this is it, there really isn't anything else you can change. Audio is where the game really falls short for me, at least sound effects wise, because it just seems to be a bit of a buggy, unpolished mess. I don't think this is related to playing the game on a newer system either, because I remember the exact same things occurring to me over a decade ago. Enemies are essentially silent when it comes to footsteps, positional audio is awful, and sometimes you just flat out won't hear enemy weapons firing, even though you can clearly see them shooting. I do have to mention here though that the game does feature some incredibly hilarious enemy NPC banter. Seriously, hearing some of these lines sent me on a nostalgia trip like no other.
Throw a pair of balls! Shit, bitch owed me money!
Shit, these guys are good. Taking fire! I need backup!
Hey, what should we do?
Who's going to cover me?
Come on. He's dead. We'll shoot the fucker.
The music in game is pretty solid as well, with the main theme being an absolute banger. Seriously, since I returned to the game, I can't get it out of my head. Overall, Rainbow Six Vegas 2 is still an incredibly fun shooter to return to. It features one of the best implementations of a cover system I've ever played, and perhaps the best co-op game mode ever in Terrorist Hunt, or at least the most fun. If you and a friend have got this lying around in your Steam libraries, I highly recommend knocking the dust off and giving it a try. I don't think you'll be disappointed, and even if you don't own the game, it routinely goes on sale for dirt cheap, so consider picking it up. Let me know your thoughts on the game down below, and as always, thanks for watching. Until next time.